This is some oak I scored about a year ago when someone's tree had been felled for construction. Today we're going to use this oak to make two sister marking gauges, one for me and one for the craftsman. They will be sister marking gauges because they will both come from the same board. First, what we have to do is turn some of these rough logs into dimensioned boards. I'm using a combination of a jointing plane and my Miller's Falls Tools jack plane I refurbished in another video. The Miller's Falls jack plane is very old. By my calculation, it should be about 90 years old. The Craftsman loves old tools, and so do I, so that's one reason I'm making a classic style marking gauge. Now that I have two boards dimensioned, I have to decide which one I want to use. I chose to use the shorter piece. It had less flecking, so I didn't feel as bad about cutting it up and hiding some of its beauty. It was now time for me to draw out the plans for the gauges on the stock. This took me a long time. I drew through about 3 iterations for both gauges, but did eventually find a design that maximized the available lumber. You can see the basic idea right here, a square block that will have a hole that can accept a square dowel with the marking pin in it. I'm doing this to make sawing to the knife line much easier. I can now use the cross-cut side of my pole saw to square up each end of the lumber and bring each gauge into closer dimension. I had to use my small block plane to even up the saw cut side. It was a little rough and off the mark. With 2 more well-placed cuts, I had the reference surfaces for the gauges ready. The rest of the dimensioned rough lumber will become the dowel with the pin. I'm splitting it with an old chisel. I should make a handle for that. I will use the Miller's Falls plane in combination with my planing jig. What we want to do is get the dowel to be square and flat. The dimensions I'm working towards were just under 18 millimeters. This is because I have an 18 millimeter chisel and would cut the hole for the dowel using that chisel. I could check the dimension by recording the width of the chisel with calipers and then checking those calipers against the dimensions of the dowel. Let's move on to cutting that hole now. The method I'm using is very easy, but time consuming. You walk your chisel up and down the area you want to make a square hole in, and you whack straight down with your mallet. This slowly carves out a square hole. The biggest challenge I usually face when using this technique is making my corners 90 degrees vertically and laterally. I have been getting better with practice though. I had to throw a clamp on there just to hold the workpiece. This is the point where we do fine tuning. We want the fit between the hole and the dowel to slide nicely, but not have too big of a gap. Making this true takes a lot of time and practice. We still have a little more to go. Off camera, I drilled a hole for this little thumb screw, so now we can drill it in. I'm coating the threads in wax to make it easier to turn and easier to tap. The screw is there to lock the dowel in place. It all fits up exceeding my expectation, it slides without any resistance, so now we can insert the pin for marking. The pin is just a small nail that I heat treated and sharpened. It should stay sharp for quite a while. I decided to stain one of the gauges. I'm using the same stain that I used on my mallet. I think it makes the oak look really, really nice. The stain is water-based, so it doesn't smell at all. I think the stain came out really well. It was nice and even. I finished both of these gauges with the intent that they'd be used. I know that the craftsman will love and cherish this tool that I made for him forever. So I present to you the sister marking gauges, made from the same piece of lumber with only hand tools. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a like. If you really love what I'm doing here, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.